few years ago, I remember reading about and looking at videos of a Japan-only game called Galgun. I thought it had a pretty crazy concept. Basically, it's like one of those rail shooters you would find in an arcade. Except that instead of shooting zombies, aliens, or whatever to death, you shoot Japanese high school girls with your pheromones until they collapse from, I guess, an orgasm? The game is obviously all about fan service. I figured that we'd never see this game released in the West. Thankfully I was wrong, because that game's sequel did make it onto Western shelves. And pulled off the shelves in Australia because Australia. It's called Galgun Double Peace and you can get it in both PS4 and Vita flavors. Also, I'm sure you can figure out what the name Double Peace is in reference to. We're looking at the PS4 version in this video. There was a limited edition as well, but I missed the pre-order. I only found out about the game's release a few weeks after the release date. Nevertheless, I ordered the regular edition and made an enthusiastic trip to the mailbox when it finally arrived. Alright, let's start talking about the game here. You take control of the protagonist, Hodai, who's an unpopular high school student and the target of Cupid angel Ekoro. Due to being distracted by a demon, Ekoro ends up shooting him with a Cupid arrow that's a little too strong, and now he's got every girl in the school coming for him. The thing is that because the arrow was so powerful, Hodai has to find his true love before the day is over, or else he'll be alone for the rest of his life. No pressure or anything. The story is told in the visual novel format. All the characters are voiced, which is nice, and the ending you get depends on what girl you pick as your love interest and what your dialogue choices are. You can choose between your childhood friends Shinobu and Maya at first, though later you can unlock different routes as well. When the story requires you to move between locations, the game becomes a rail shooter. Girls will be coming at you from all different angles, and you have to hit them with your pheromone shot until they collapse in ecstasy. They're everywhere. They're on top of the lockers, jumping out of the lockers, jumping out of the water, and running on roofs. How the hell did they even get up there? Since it's a rail shooter, you won't be able to walk around how you please. The path is predetermined, though you get to choose which way to go on occasion. You can, however, move the cursor around the screen and zoom in with the R1 button if you want to take a closer look. You shoot with the square button. The controls aren't as good as they could be, I think. Aiming feels a little bit slow to react, and a little clunky. Something I found really cool was that the girls chasing you are actually characters. They all have their own names, voices, and character designs. I first realized this when I kept seeing the green-haired twins popping up from time to time. See this bit of Japanese text popping up? That's their weak spot. Hitting them there makes them topple over with pleasure instantly. Each girl has their own weak spot. After playing the game for a while, I even started memorizing where to aim. Not sure if I should be proud of that or not. I wonder why they disappear into thin air after shooting them. If all the shooting is getting a little bit repetitive, you can go into Doki Doki mode. It's just another way of dealing with your opponents. If this meter here is at least a 1, you can hit triangle and select a girl to go into Doki Doki mode with. The aim is to touch their sensitive parts until their meter fills up all the way. Make sure it's flashing too if you want the proper double V finish. You can choose up to 3 girls. After that's all done, for some reason they explode, which knocks out any of the other girls in the vicinity. Also, your stats change after that, but we'll talk about that later. If you're still wanting to mix things up, you can go into the dressing room and change the character's clothing. There isn't all that much in the beginning, but you can get some DLC if you want more outfits. They're really expensive though, just look at some of the prices. At specific parts of the story, you'll come across boss fights and events. The boss fights, while being a little different depending which route you're on, play mostly the same. There's a definite pattern, and it's nothing too difficult. Sometimes you'll have to figure out where the certain weak points are, and just keep shooting specific spots until the health bar depletes. Occasionally there are little quick time events to change things up. If you do end up dying, you can revive by sacrificing some points. On to the fan service events, not that this game is lacking in this department. Sometimes you get into situations which can be pretty amusing, like Shinobu getting stuck in the window, Maya getting stuck on a giant piece of sticky paper, or having to rub oil all over them because of plot reasons. These events are also kind of similar to each other. First, you have to shoot targets distributed around various parts of the human anatomy. Hitting targets slowly increases the meter. Occasionally, you'll have to stroke, rub, or poke the touchpad on specific spots, which fill the meter even more. Once that's over, you'll have to interact with the touchpad. What you have to do depends on the situation. It's not all furious rubbing though, sometimes you have to take it slow. The better you do, the more your chosen girl will like you. Now here's a useful feature. If someone walks in on you playing Galgun, just press on both of the analog sticks. The game switches to something that looks like an 8-bit RPG. It's like one of those panic buttons that some eroges have. Not that I would know anything about those. The game isn't all that long. I think this is a good thing since a lot of the fun in this game is to try and get the other endings and unlock the other routes. When starting a new game, you can pick what kind of person the main character is. The various stats dictate the dialogue options that you're able to choose from. Basically, if your character is dumb, then you can't pick the smart options. You can buy things in the store that will change your stats. I already mentioned that Doki Doki mode changes your stats, but I'm not sure how it works exactly. I'm gonna guess that it depends on the girls and your performance. Even after completing the game a few times, there's a lot of replay value since you can unlock good endings, bad endings, true endings, and different routes. Eventually, you'll even be able to go after any girl you want. You can also try to get all the student and teacher handbooks, which give you very specific details about the girls. The graphics aren't the greatest, I have to say. It looks very PS3-ish for being a PS4 game. The textures are low res, though the character models aren't too bad. In terms of sound, it's about average. The sound effects are okay, and the music is a bit repetitive. But I think all of that is part of the charm. It has a B-movie vibe to it, which I enjoy. Galgun is lighthearted and doesn't take itself seriously. I mean, how could it? Despite and because of its flaws, Galgun Double Peace is a good game for people into anime fanservice games. Definitely consider picking it up if you find what you see here interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.